discuss themes that will stay with you for the rest of your life. I've talked to many of you one-on-one this afternoon, and it's been very inspiring hearing from you all about how you have a transformed sense of purpose and commitment. Many of you are already practicing a little bit of bhakti, but you vowed to increase. Some of you had no practice at all, but you've decided to change your lifestyle. So this has been very inspiring. We didn't come here to give you a religious belief. We came here to give you the scientific process of Krishna consciousness, as Krishna himself gave it. And who is a bigger authority than Krishna? One question that came up often in my discussions with you all individually is how to balance the work life with the bhakti life. My answer is that the bhakti life includes the work life. Just like Arjuna, the greatest bhakta Arjuna was a working man. He was a family man. As I often point out, Krishna chose a family man and a working man to speak Bhagavad Gita to show you that it's possible. Krishna could have chosen a brahmana. Arjuna was not a brahmana. Krishna could have chosen a sannyasi or brahmachari. Arjuna was a householder with a family. Yet Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to him. So you should remember that as you go through your daily affairs. Of course, we have the responsibility to make sure our daily affairs are not an unnecessary burden. We need to simplify our lifestyle so it's focused on having Krishna in the center. Otherwise, if we make our life so complicated, then naturally we're going to wonder how to balance all this. So the bhakti lifestyle is focused like a laser beam. And in that way, you can be most effective. So I wanted to explain to you a little bit about spiritual economics. Because many persons today ask me, how do you go to work with a bhakti mentality? Isn't work just work? It doesn't have to be that kind of attitude. Of course, you're afraid of going to work with materialistic motivations, to be more greedy, to be more jealous. So how do you go to work and be effective without taking on all these negative characteristics so common in the workplace today? My advice to you is that you go to work to give, not to get. That is spiritual economics. Go to work to give. But to give what? Number one, to give yourself a bhakti lifestyle. You have to maintain yourself. But what is the reason you're maintaining yourself? Go to work to give yourself a bhakti culture. Make your home a bhakti culture. And number two, go to work to give that bhakti culture, that bhakti lifestyle to your family. Of course, you're a part of your family. Go to work so that your family has a maximum opportunity for being Krishna conscious. But don't forget number three. Go to work to give as much of the world as your resources allow. Go to work so that the whole world can become Krishna conscious. If you're a billionaire, okay, give billions to help others be Krishna conscious. Or if you're just having a modest salary, give something. So if you do those 3 reasons for going to work, your consciousness will be transformed. Go to work to give. To yourself, to your family, and as much of the world as your resources allow. That is completely different than you're going to work to get. More for me, more for me, more possessions, more luxuries, more entertainment for me, and for my family, my bodies. The bhakti yogi, the Krishna conscious person, goes to work to give. But to give to just anyone and anything? Go to work to give yourself and your family a bhakti lifestyle. A situation where Krishna is firmly in the center. If you have a family, doing that takes resources. But everyone can give a little something to help others be Krishna conscious. Not only give money, but as they say in the world, time is money. So give your time, give your financial resources as much as you're able to help others. Because actually all living entities are our family. Because all living entities are part of Krishna. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya. Krishna says you should know that all species of life, no matter what their bodily form, Krishna says that he is the seed-giving Father. So as you advance in bhakti, your vision becomes wider. Your circle of concern becomes wider. Materialistic consciousness is very small-minded. Just my body and the bodies that are directly connected to my body. Then you may widen the circle a little bit. My body and all those bodies that look like my body, or all those bodies that are from the same tract of land as my body. Nationalism. Or ethnocentrism. All this is so small-minded and so constricting of the spirit. Because the spirit soul is in everybody. All spirit souls are equal. They're part of Krishna, the Supreme Soul. So in this way, the bhakti yogi, the Krishna conscious person, has the highest lifestyle. So as you may have noticed, so much about bhakti is in the category of lifestyle engineering. We have civil engineers here, yes? What other engineers? IT engineers? Any others? Huh? Electronic engineer? But what about lifestyle engineers? Each one of you has a chance to be a lifestyle engineer. How to engineer your lifestyle for maximum focus on Krishna. That is for real. I remember as an 8 or 9-year-old child in the 50s, in the 1950s, reading in the newspaper how in a few decades, the cutting edge career would be the cutting edge field would be leisure time engineering. Because it was predicted in the 50s that very soon people would have so much time they wouldn't know what to do with it. So they would need an engineer called a leisure time engineer to help them figure out what to do with all the leisure time. That was supposed to be the cutting edge career for around 1970, 1980. Did it ever happen? No, people are working harder than ever. But bhakti is the real lifestyle engineering, because it teaches you not only what to do with your leisure time, but also your working time. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita talks about not only fighting on the battlefield with Krishna as the chariot driver, but he talks about relaxing with Krishna. Oh, Krishna, I've seen your universal form now. Please forgive me for all our casual moments together, chatting, reclining together. So Arjuna has leisure time, but it's all Krishna focused. So I hope that after this weekend and all the discussions we've had, that you'll take very seriously this opportunity to follow Bhagavad Gita as it is. Sometimes I've heard from some of you that in the past, you, or even now, your family members, are doing their own self-styled program of worshiping this one, worshiping that one, with no basis in Shastra, no authoritative basis. What we tried to show you this weekend is that everything in bhakti is authoritative because it's based on Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. I haven't made all this up. We're doing as Krishna and Krishna's representatives have prescribed. Krishna's representatives prescribe what Krishna says. Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee. So Krishna's devotees help you make a program in your life for always thinking of Krishna and becoming Krishna's devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. My devotees are always chanting my glories. So we devise a program for always chanting Krishna's glories. So this weekend has been a Krishna-focused weekend. Tasting food offered to Krishna. Does anyone have any objection about that? Hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna, associating with Krishna's devotees. How wonderful, how glorious. So we want you to take this spark that you received this weekend and fan it so the spark becomes blazing like a fire. Please do that. So are there any last questions? We had so many wonderful questions today, and even more when persons came to see me individually. And I was happy to hear how sincerely you've been listening and thinking about what to do. So, last questions? Everyone is resolute with their determination.
Hare Krishna, Maharaji. How mind, senses, intelligence and soul interrelated?
The spirit soul has senses, spiritual senses. The material senses are an artificial covering over the spiritual senses. So the more you practice bhakti, the more your spiritual senses come to the foreground. Our material senses are like a polluted covering. But if you engage your material senses in Krishna's service, they become purified. And they no longer become such an impediment that blocks your spiritual senses. The example given by the Acharyas is you take an iron rod and you put it into fire. The iron rod is not fire, but if you leave it in the fire long enough, the iron rod can act like fire and burn other things, even though the iron rod is not fire. So you can spiritualize your material body so that it doesn't present a blockage for the functioning of your spiritual senses. Just like when you have a bad cold, you can't smell properly, you can't taste properly. What if this weekend you had such a bad cold, your nose is clogged, your sinuses are jammed up, but then it's lunchtime. You can't taste anything, but you still want to eat, right? Imagine, with all the wonderful prasad we had this weekend, imagine that you were sick in terms of having a bad, severe cold. And so in front of you is all this wonderful prasad, but you can't smell and you can't taste. That's what it's like to have a material body which blocks the sensitivity of the spiritual senses. By engaging your material body in Krishna's service, it becomes like the iron rod held in the fire. It becomes spiritualized. Very good question. So we're talking about much more than just religious belief as conventionally known. We're talking about much more than someone artificially stamping themselves as Hindu, Muslim, Christian, this, that, wearing it like a fashion label. We're talking about the actual laboratory process for spiritual perception and spiritual experience. I was amazed to hear from so many of you how you would have never, when you were in India at home, you would have never thought to be doing what you're doing now. Come to Australia and find Krishna? How many of you decided, I'm going to Australia to find Krishna? How many? 0. You all thought we're going to Australia for more money, more career opportunity. Yet, Krishna tricked you. Once Srila Prabhupada was visiting Montreal in the very early days of ISKCON. And there was no room for him to stay in the temple, the first temple in Montreal. So he was staying at a hotel, and some other devotees were staying next to him in the room. And then they heard Srila Prabhupada laughing. He was laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And this went on for 5 minutes straight, just laughing. He was just laughing. So the devotees were looking at him. They never saw anyone laugh like that for so long. And then Prabhupada opened his eyes and said, once they come to Krishna, they are caught. Sooner or later, the spark will turn into a blaze. Maybe later in life, like I told you about my sister, 40 years, nothing. But then the spark that was planted when she was 14 by her reading Bhagavad Gita turned into a blaze when she was 61, grandmother, retired, has gone through all the phases. So maybe some of you will not catch fire till late in life. Maybe some of you will catch fire in the next life. Still, once you come to Krishna, you are caught. You may leave your body and forget all about Krishna. Oh, 50 years ago, there was this weekend retreat in Ballarat. And you may forget all about it as you're going into old age and giving up your body. But Krishna doesn't forget. In your next life, you begin from where you left off with your bhakti career. All the other career knowledge, promotions, washed away at the time of death. At the time of death, does Yamaraj say, "Oh, I see you were a civil engineer"? It's all gone. "Oh, I see you did everything you could to live in Australia. All right, next birth, wombat." You didn't qualify to have a human body. These are the laws of nature, how they work. So we know that everyone who has gathered here will have eternal benefit just by your coming this weekend. But you can do much better than that. You can begin your bhakti practice this weekend and continue onward and upward. And then, when you have your family, you can teach your family to do the same. Unless we have a few future brahmacharis here. Any? That's all right. Become first-class grihasta, paka grihasta, keeping Krishna in the center. All right, no more questions. Yes.
I'm confused with the real form of Krishna, because in the morning one of the shlokas what you said, like Lord Krishna when it comes to the human form in the world, all people misunderstand him. Like
Krishna's form is eternal. It's not simply when he comes to the material world. When he comes to the material world through his spiritual energy, he's showing you his original eternal form in Krishna Loka, the topmost portion of the spiritual world. He's showing his original form from which expands Narayan and all the Vishnus. They all are contained within Krishna, Swami Bhagavan Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. When he comes, all the incarnations, the avatars, the Vishnu expansions are all with him because he's the source of them. So he's coming and showing you, this is me. And what do we say? It's not you. This is our ignorance.
How do you compare the human form and the spiritual form? When we say param bhavam ajanantam, like we are not, and fools deride, like we are not able to understand his real form. So how do you compare this real form?
He's talking about the fools don't understand, the unintelligent don't understand. But those who listen to Krishna explain himself, they understand. Bhagavad Gita makes sense when you hear Krishna directly without interpretation. Krishna is saying, I'm like this, I'm like that.
There is a confusion because he says, I am like that, I am like that. So he's talking about in different forms. So like when we are not able to understand param bhavam, so what exactly he means to say?
They don't understand his supremacy, that he is the origin of everything.
Yeah.
They don't accept that. There's something in the mind that says, no, 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 no. They don't understand when he says, Matta pratram nanyat. There's nothing beyond me. There's no truth superior to me. They don't understand that. They don't want to understand. There's something in the mind already. No, no, not Krishna. That's why if you want to understand Krishna, you hear directly from Krishna. The Sanskrit in Bhagavad Gita is so simple and direct. Okay. Hare Krishna. We're getting near the last question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering, why did Krishna choose India for all of his incarnations? And also, how did he decide that he would take those incarnations?
That he would.
Take the incarnations that he did.
Because India,
I know that, yeah, but
on what basis he decides he will choose those incarnations to go?
Krishna also appears on the heavenly planets. He also appears in the lower planets. Krishna incarnates in every species of life, even vegetables. And he benefits those creatures of that particular species of life. Krishna has his personal preferences. Why did you choose to come to Australia?
To explore.
To explore. Krishna has no need to explore. He already knows everything. He has his personal preferences. He's a person. So you take advantage of his appearing in India, on this planet. Krishna appears in every universe, in every species of life, on every planet. But Swami Bhagavan Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, yes, he chose what is now considered India. But actually, during Krishna's time, Bharat was the whole world. Not just the subcontinent now known as India. All right? Hare Krishna. Thank you for asking about Krishna. Bharatvarsha was the whole world. Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, they ruled the whole world. Now it has shrunk just to the subcontinent of India. Yes.
I was wondering if you could help me clarify this concept that I had difficulty understanding. I believe it was the concept of how people never change. So I believe you were talking, not you specifically, but the soul or the spirit never changes since the start of birth until the end. Okay, so I'm having difficulty understanding the concept of the fact that the soul never changes.
What do you mean by never changes?
So I've heard from the start of your birth when you're a baby to the end when you're an old man that something within you remains the same. I'm having difficulty.
The soul undergoes no material transformations. Everything material always changes. You change your body, you change your mind. Now you like hip-hop music. 20 years from now, maybe something else. Maybe you turn into an Indian classical musician. Always change on the material platform. What doesn't change is that Krishna's flute playing attracts everyone. That's why he's called Krishna. He's a supreme musician. You should study him. Krishna plays his flute, and all living entities are attracted. Even the grass starts to turn in the direction of the flute playing. The trees start shivering and crying in the form of sap coming out of the trees. All the animals in the forest run to where Krishna is playing his flute. And of course, Krishna's dearest devotees, they run towards the sound of the flute. That's the music you should study. Venu Gita, the song of the flute. Can your hip-hop musicians do like that? Bollywood musicians, can they do like that? No. Speaking of music, it's time that we have some kirtan, yes? So do we have a mridanga player or two? How many?
Shama is there with the mics. He's there with the mics also.
Yes, we know Sham Sundar is a mridanga player. Is there another?
No.
All right, you're enough, right?
That's why we gave him the mics.
Is your mother, Vishuddha Devi, here to play?